Hi, everyone. This is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, and today we're going to be talking about how to write your best script ever. And I think this is a really important conversation. It's like one of the things you want to be doing as you are writing is continually adding new strategies and strategies that increase your chance of making a deal. So this can make a big difference for you. So let's just start with your evolution. And this is having interviewed a whole bunch of A-list screenwriters. I'm going to tell you, they all went through the same thing you're going through. You know, a lot of times people think that A-list screenwriters were always in the industry and they were lucky, and people say all kinds of things. I've interviewed 100 of them, and more than 100. And during that period of time, what I saw was that they got to a certain point where they were somewhat good, but not great. They weren't getting the success that they wanted, and they made some decisions that moved them forward. So let's just look at how this works. You're starting over here, bottom left-hand corner. It says 1 to 10 scripts there. Wherever you are, however many you've written, that's where you're starting. If you haven't written your first one, well, that's where you're starting. If you've written 20 scripts and haven't had success yet, that's where you're starting. And wherever it is totally fine. Where you want to go is all the way up here in the top right-hand corner. And I'm going to put a version of it, consistent movies produced. Now, you may have something else. You may be wanting to, have a couple of movies produced and then become a showrunner for TV. I don't know. Whatever it is, this is whatever it is, put your goal here in your mind. So now, having said that, what's going to happen right off the bat is your job is to take action. And that means consistent action. And this isn't me telling you something you don't know. In order to make any career change, you're going to have to take a lot of actions. And again, back to the A-list screenwriters I've interviewed, they took action after action after action after action, and they never stopped until they got where they wanted to go. So then the second thing that they did and that you want to do is over here on the far left-hand side, elevate your skills. And this over and over, I heard, those top screenwriters say this. I asked one guy, I said, how many scripts did it take before you made your first big deal? And he said, 25. The audience gasped. I had an audience of about 50 writers there, and they gasped because they're like, oh my God, do I have to go through that? So I looked at him and I said, let me ask you something. Could you have done it faster? And if so, what would you have needed to do it faster? And he said, well, yeah, if somebody would have just told me what I was supposed to do. Then he told us how he went through all this massive trial and error. He said he had no idea what he was supposed to do. So he was essentially mistaking his way to success. You don't have to do that. I've also interviewed, by the way, A-list screenwriters who made it to success by their third screenplay. So it just depends on what you're doing and the level of skills you have. The ones who made it to success by their third screenplay had much higher level skills. A lot of them had come from another writing world. I talked with one guy who he said he had a lot of poetry published and that kind of thing. So he really understood part of the game, and he just had to add the skills that he didn't understand yet. That's your job. Anybody who thinks that, that thing where somebody says, oh, the way you become successful is just read a lot of scripts and then just write a lot of scripts. It's like that's the way to spend 15 to 20 scripts before you have success. If you want to get there faster, start elevating your skills. Professional skills are very different than the amateur skills, and they make a huge difference when you get in. The producers can tell the difference between an amateur and a pro, and it's based on their skills and the quality of their writing. So then it comes down to this question right here. Gee, oh, wait a minute, hang on. We got a couple of other things here. Let's make sure we fill in these other blanks. So generally, somebody starting down here, a lot of times the next step is to win contest. And then from there to get optioned. Then from there to get a movie made, and from there to get an agent. It might happen in a different sequence. We have had people get optioned, then win a contest, then get an agent, and then come back and get a movie made. It just depends on, how things go for you. What I would be doing is taking the opportunities that show up in front of you. When an opportunity shows up, just say yes. That's what I would be doing. And then finally, this one, what's your plan? What's your plan to get there? Now, backing up, all those interviews I did with writers who had made it, what I found was that sometimes they had a plan, sometimes they had someone else in their life who had a plan. We had one writer who made it to the top, and his brother basically gave him a plan. His brother had already broken into the industry and gave him a plan. That writer said he refused to do it for 5 years. He said him and his brother had some issues, and he just wasn't going to listen to it. And after 5 years of trying to break in without using a plan that was professional, he said he went back and said to his brother, all right, what do I need to do? And his next script sold. So your plan, what's your plan? What will get you there, right? Because you're going from here to there. This is going to be incredibly important. And we work with it all the time. I've had writers who have made something happen. They won a contest and then just stalled out. And so it was like, okay, we went back and said, what's the plan that will get them to the next step? And what's the plan that will get them beyond that? Right? That's your job. If one plan doesn't work, you find another that does. So let's continue. So easy places to improve your script right now. And you want to be thinking constantly, no matter how well you're doing, until you have the level of success you want to be constantly improving. So I'm going to give you a bunch of strategies here. First one, check your opening scene. And please know this, I've interviewed a whole bunch of readers. At one point, we interviewed 50 when I was putting together one class. I was just looking for how readers think. And so readers make a decision about the writer based on the first scene. If you're trying to sell yourself, your opening scene is the most important scene in your script. Because a lot of times, if they don't have to read the script and your opening scene is average, they're done. Don't let that happen to you. So go to your opening scene. What you need, first, you need amazing dialogue. If there's a single line of dialogue in your opening scene that is generic or average, brainstorm 10 ways to do it and pick the best. Second, you need your character in action. Don't have an opening scene where two characters sit and tell each other the story. It's really the lowest level you could go. Put the character in action in some way. Doesn't mean it has to be an action scene. Just have them doing something that's not busy work. Have them doing something that's meaningful. Have them doing something that's intriguing or interesting. You need a challenging situation in that opening scene. And this means that character is going to be challenged at a level they haven't yet, and they need to come through. That challenging situation could be, if it's an action scene, it's It's going to be, we're going to see them challenged. We're going to be watching something that we go, oh my God, how are they going to survive? And then ultimately, by the end of the scene, they will, right? So that just having a challenging scene makes this character more interesting. It makes every line of dialogue more interesting. So it is worth doing. But this also could be, the person getting fired from their job. It could be, if it's, let's say it's a rom-com, we could start out with two people breaking up, or something like that, right? It's like, or we could start out with these two characters who belong together, but they just can't quite figure it out yet. So then again, go to your lead characters and eliminate any generic dialogue. And let me tell you what I mean by this. If any other character in the script could say this line, change it for that lead character. You need your lead characters to be continually expressing who they are, right? So if any other character could say this line, it doesn't belong for your leads. And let me tell you the principle behind this. What we're basically saying is this. Those two lead characters, your protagonist and your antagonist, those need to go to A-list actors. They need to go to big actors. If you're doing a low-budget indie, they need to go to B-level actors or C-level actors that are somebody we've seen before. So to attract those actors, you need lines that are incredibly interesting, not generic dialogue. I hope that makes absolute sense. If you look at a line and let's say it says, "Hey, how are you?" Right? There are 100 different ways a character could get the attention of another character without saying something generic like, "Hey, how are you?" Any character could say that line. So you just go, all right, what would my character, my protagonist, with their traits, with their motivations, their wants and needs, with their quirks, with their wounds, what could that character say when they first see this other person? That would indicate character, right? And would fit their relationship and those kinds of things. Create something interesting, and you've got a better chance that your A-list actor is going to say yes. Third, replace busy work with meaningful action. Here's some busy work right here. Your characters, I see this a lot. Somebody will have nonstop dialogue for 2 pages, have 2 characters sitting across from each other in a diner, and they'll have one of them fidget with the utensils while the other one takes a drink. And they're putting those lines of action in there to kind of break up the dialogue. Listen, the problem is that's meaningless. Busy work is meaningless. Don't do that. If you can, make sure it has meaning. Make sure it's something that the action is actually delivering part of the meaning of the scene. So you just start by asking, what's the meaning of this scene? If it's that these two people are about to break up, let's say, then you might be putting things in there where they're pounding their fist on the table, or where they're, throwing things at each other, or, any number of other things. Just think about what kind of action would represent them breaking up, tearing up their marriage certificate. Just ask, what's the meaning of the scene? They're breaking up. Okay, what kind of action could have us get that? You know, it's the old thing of somebody throwing a glass of water in the other person's face. At least that's meaningful. So, and then the question becomes then, whatever that meaning is, how can I show that meaning through action? So I just gave you a couple, tearing up their marriage certificate or whatever it is. throwing water in the face, pounding on the table, yelling and screaming, getting up and running out. Those all can deliver at least some kind of meaning. But all you do at this point is you just brainstorm. I know what the meaning is of the scene. What action could deliver that? And you just make a list. I just listed off like 4 really fast. Make a list, and somewhere in there you might find one that fits this scene perfectly, and therefore making the scene so much more interesting and engaging to the audience. Also, taking the place of bland dialogue. Number 4, create a fast read. Now, let me tell you where this came from. I was at Paramount interviewing producers in front of an audience, and somebody in the audience had said, I want to know what they're reading right now. So I was like, okay, let's just ask that. So every producer that sat down, I said, by the way, the audience is wondering, what are you reading right now? And what would you recommend they read, as in what scripts? And the first producer sat down and she goes, well, I've got this really good script. It's a fast read. You'll really love it. And then she told the pitch for the script and the title. And I was like, okay. So the next producer comes in, and he sits down and we ask him that question. And he said, well, there's this script that we're thinking about producing right now. It was on the blacklist. He says, I caution you up front, it's a dense read. And then he told us the pitch. So I said, hang on just a second, I got to ask you something. The last producer said she was recommending a script, and it was a fast read. And he goes, oh, cool. Yeah, what script was it? So somebody said the name in the audience. And he goes, okay, yeah, he says, I have that one on my list. I'll take a look at it. And I said, and then you said you recommended a script, and before you even told us the pitch, you told us it was a dense read. Why do you guys do that? And he goes, well, if you've read 10 to 15 scripts a week for the last 10 years, you already know if something's a fast read, you can fit it in before dinner. If it's a dense read, you have to, pull out 2 hours of your time and say, I'm going to take 2 hours on this script. And I was like, wow. So that's what people say every time they pitch something. And he says, a lot of times, he says, it's kind of a courtesy. Now, as we kept looking at this, what we found out was that a lot of readers have a tendency to put off something that's not a fast read. So this is important. Make sure, and this mainly comes down to your description. Make sure that your script is a fast read. Shorten the sentences. A lot of times you can do staccato writing. And what this means, like let's say we have this long paragraph that says, the guy, it describes the car pulls into the driveway, the guy gets out, he's not sure what to do, walks up to the door, knocks, stands around, waits, blah, blah, blah. It goes on and on and on. And finally the door opens. Let's do it staccato. Car pulls into the driveway, period. He gets out, period. Runs to the door, period. Thinks for a second, period. Kicks it in. Exclamation point, right? You may think, wow, I could have just written that in a long sentence or 2 sentences, but by writing it in 5 really short sentences, that means the reader gets it in glances. They get it instantly. It's easy to go through. It makes it a much faster read. Then cut any unnecessary description. And this really, really important. You are not a novelist today. You may be a novelist in another life, but here, when you're turning a script into a producer, anything that's unnecessary, anything that if we took 2 pages and we had one of them be the one with the unnecessary description that told us everything about how this character looks and how they dress and all these other kinds of things, and the other one being the page that had all that unnecessary description gone, I'm going to tell you, here's part of how you can tell it's unnecessary. Would the reader miss it? Not would you miss it? If the reader would miss it, like if you cut out a paragraph that says the most important things, like that this guy kicked the door in, that one has meaning. It's important. It means he's not just somebody who's coming over to see a friend. He's coming in for violence and that kind of thing. So that's necessary. Do we need the car pulling up in the driveway? Maybe not, right? It's like whatever is unnecessary description, cut it. Make this the fastest read you can. So now let's go to some advanced strategies. And what we've done so far is kind of gone through the script and made sure a couple of important things worked. We made sure that if an actor sees their lines, they're going to say, wow, I want to be that character, right? We've made sure that you cut all the unnecessary description and you've created a fast read. So now there's a couple of things that I want you to start thinking about that could make you more professional. And this is always the question, by the way. What will make my writing more professional? Just keep asking that and keep exploring it. Here's a couple of things. First, take more risk with your lead characters, and especially your protagonist. I see too many scripts where people have been so careful with their protagonist. They don't want their protagonist to offend anyone. And they're not taking risks. They're making the character so bland. They're making them nice. That's the big thing. They're making the character nice. Don't do that. On your lead characters, your protagonist and your antagonist, neither one of them has to be nice. In fact, it may be better if your antagonist is nice and it's extremely covert. But on your protagonist, unless we're seeing them being covert, I wouldn't be doing that. I would make them more intriguing. You know, I'd be looking what's under the surface with this character. What are we wondering about? Why did they just do that? Right? They just did something and we have no idea why, and we're wondering, and now we're searching. I'd give them serious issues. And this all started because of the streamers. They were taking projects that were more risky, where the lead characters had personal problems, and those projects became very, very successful. So stop making your protagonists crystal clean, sweet, wonderful people. Give them some issues. They've got stuff going on, just like everybody. Again, stop making them so nice. This right here. The only way I would use the word nice with a character is if it's nice, but conniving, or nice that covers their evil, or something like that. If you're just making a character sweet and nice, there needs to be a real reason, and it needs to be really compelling. So, second, elevate the situations. And this for a lot of writers, they don't think about what are the situations these characters are in during these scenes. And you can tell that because they'll often have a lot of talking head scenes where there is no situation. You've got just two people sitting and talking, or they're walking and talking, or they're playing pool and talking. That's all meaningless action for the first part. But for the second part, there's nothing going on there. If you took the exact same lines of dialogue from those characters that they're saying while they're talking and walking, and you put them in a different situation, let's say you put them in a situation where both of them have been kidnapped, and they've been in a room together for the last 12 hours, tied up, and now they're having this conversation, it might have 10 times the meaning because of the situation. So a situation is the circumstances that your character's in, right? What's the circumstances? Again, if you have two people sitting at a diner eating, there's no real circumstances there. It's like, so what? You just put them in a place so they could talk. Uh, be careful about that. Give them some circumstances. And the objective is to have challenging situations. Go back to the kidnapped thing. Those characters are challenged. They're in a bad spot. Somehow they got to figure their way out. How are they going to get out of there? Right? So the audience, because of the circumstance, is worried about them and listens to what they say much more. And then, please rethink talking head scenes. And just all you got to do is just ask yourself, okay, if this conversation that these two are having is so important, why don't I build some kind of challenging situation that they're in when they're having that conversation so that the audience is more engaged? Just a thought. So look at every scene, just ask this question: what's the situation? And could it be stronger? And if it could, the moment you do that, the moment you make that change, you just dramatically increase the chance that the reader is going to be more engaged, right? It's like you now are doing something that improves the read just by taking the same dialogue and putting it into a challenging situation. Also, it's going to make the audience more engaged. It's going to increase the chance that a director is going to sign on and they're going to say, wow, I love what this writer did with these situations. What would that be like for you if you knew that anyone who read your script just was deeply, deeply engaged because you did something like this? So, and then strategy 3, make your turning points stronger. Let me tell you, long time ago, I was talking with a reader, and she said, this was a reader at the studio level. She said, sometimes we get scripts in where the writers are trying to be subtle about their turning points. And the turning point means the end of the first act, the midpoint, and the end of the second act, right? The turning point starts, the moment a turning point happens, it starts a whole new act, essentially, or in the middle, it's half an act, but it's still 30 pages of stuff, right? That turning point needs to be strong. Back to this reader, she basically said, if I see that, I just pass on it. Because this is part of the audience's journey, right? They come to be engaged. They come to be re-engaged. They come there to be surprised. And having a strong turning point every 30 pages dramatically increases the chance they will. So again, these are the turning points: the end of Act 1, midpoint, end of Act 2. A turning point is a major twist. You need something that is significant. Something has changed in a big way, and there is no going back. Once that turning point has occurred, their life has changed, and they have to go through the next act. That is incredibly important. If what you did, like let's say we have a horror movie, and the character gets trapped in a room, the monster's coming out at them and all that kind of thing. At that point, if that's happening, really, there's no going back. They've got to face this monster. Now, if what we did was we said, oh, the turning point is, we're at the end of Act 1 and the character sees the monster, they grab their phone, they call an Uber, the Uber shows up, and they leave and they go home, right? That's because we gave them a way out. Once you do it, a turning point, don't give them any way out. Make it strong, make it a major twist. Something has changed in a huge way, and there is no escape. They cannot get out of that in any way. So they have to face it. If you want to make your turning point stronger, which is what I would be asking, how can you do that? Bigger twist, make it more shocking, or create a bigger life change. They have to face something they are not prepared for. They have to deal with an antagonist that is 10 times stronger than they thought. They're about to go on this journey. Like, if here, let me just give you just a really, really simple one. Somebody handed me a script at one point, and I remember the turning point was the 17-year-old kid getting on the bus. He had just signed the documents to go to the Army, and his mother is running towards the bus as the bus leaves. He had signed the documents. It was a twist. It was a major twist. There was no going back. He could not go back. And they made it emotional by having the last thing he saw was his mother running towards the bus trying to stop him. His life has changed. He's going into the military. Everything in his life has changed now. He doesn't live at home with mommy anymore. He can't choose when he wakes up. He can't choose anything. Everything has changed. If he ends up going to war, it's because of this decision, and he has no choice on that either, right? So, it was like, first it was a simple turning point, but it hit all the different points, right? It hit the key points. If they wanted to make it bigger, they could have created some kind of major loss that he had, or his mother had, or somebody else had. If they wanted to make it more shocking, it could be a thing where he got drunk, signed up, and woke up on the bus, had no idea. I don't know. Or had it be something where, again, it caused somebody a significant tragedy because he had done this. So, yeah. And then after each turning point, again, the protagonist is forced further into the unknown. This is also critically important. If what you're doing is having the next act, let's say we go from the first act to the second act, if you're having the second act be the character, the protagonist, continuing to do what they've always done and nothing has changed, that's not interesting. You need them to be forced into the unknown. They need that second act, or at least if you even take the first 30 pages of the second act to the midpoint, they need to be dealing with stuff they haven't dealt with. They need to be outside their comfort zone. And then when you go to the next 30 pages, it takes them even further into the unknown and outside their comfort zone. And when you finally get to that final act, they're not only into the unknown, but they're fighting the monster or the antagonist. They're up against them in a situation where normally they would have lost or died or ended the relationship or whatever. They are further and further outside their comfort zone, but they're having to deal with it. That keeps your audience engaged no matter what happens. So then here comes strategy number 4. More connection to the transformational journey. So the more you can connect us to the transformational journey. So this is your protagonist is going on this journey. In the beginning, they don't even know what the journey is. And they get invited into it at the inciting incident. But if we're not connected to them, if we're not connected to that transformational journey in any way, then we're just watching from the outside. So I'm always asking, how can we get the audience to look at the screen and say, that's me going on that journey, right? And even it doesn't matter if it's a person of a different sex or race or country or whatever. It makes no difference on that. There are ways for you to connect. I have sat and watched movies where women were the protagonist, and the whole time I'm thinking, that's me on the screen. either consciously or unconsciously. So that's your job. So how can you do that? Because if you connect them, if you get them connected to that transformational journey, then they are going to live the whole thing as their story. I'm talking about the audience is going to live it as their story, and they're going to come out of it and they're going to love it. And because of that, they'll watch that movie over and over again, which means you will get residuals over and over again. So that's important, I hope. So first and the easiest way is relatability, right? You look at the protagonist and you say, oh, I've been in a similar situation. I have similar goals. I have similar needs. I've had that problem before, or any of those kinds of things. You want us to relate to them. You know, who are they? And what is it about them that I've had, right? This is where you're creating these universal situations, universal needs that the audience can relate to, that they say, yeah, I've done that. You want to create a desire to go on the journey. And this means a lot of times you're asking what will cause an audience to want to go on this journey, right? What makes it compelling? What makes it interesting? What makes it something so intriguing that the audience, even though they're saying don't do it, they still want them to go on the journey? And then empathy. We feel for them and their pain. So empathy isn't the same as likability. A lot of times people think, I've got to make my characters likable. All of these are more important than making your character likable. Likable is below this. In the 1990s, it was number one. It was right at the top. Now, it's down here. So empathy causes the audience to feel for that character. And the reason why is because you've put the character in distress. You've created a distressful situation. You have caused that character to have to go through something that the audience feels their pain. Once you create that, they're going to be so much more connected, and they'll be connected on a deep emotional level. So again, we should say, that's me on the screen. Now think about it. You've very likely, there's some movies that you've probably seen 5 or 10 times. And very likely you connected very strong with the protagonist and you went on that transformational journey. The reason why people watch a movie over and over again isn't because it's going to surprise them, right? They've already seen all the surprises. They already know about all of this. It's because they want to go on that transformational journey and they want to do it with that character they're connected to. So, strategy 5, start with a great pitch. And let me tell you about this. To me, this question starts with this. When do you create your pitch? When do you create your pitch? So early on for me, I would create my pitch after I was done writing a script. It's already done. It's completely done. I've done 10 drafts on it. I think it's perfect. I would then create a pitch. My problem was a lot of times the pitch that would sell it isn't the pitch that honored the script. So that made it kind of difficult. So let's talk about this. A great pitch actually guides your decisions as you write. And this is what I found out from an interview I did with a writer who he showed up at one point. I was going to interview him in front of an audience. I had no idea who he was, by the way. The people who were bringing, guests in to be interviewed, I had done like 15 interviews in 2 days. We were at the end of the second day. This guy shows up, and the person brought him up there and said, Hal, this is David. And I said, okay. Hi, David, glad to meet you. I said, I've got a pretty savvy audience here. Most of them have written 8 to 10 scripts. This was our masterclass audience. I said, a lot of them have been optioned. A couple of them have managers. What do you think that you could contribute that I could talk with you about? So I was putting him on the spot. And he said, well, I have had 8 movies made out of 9 scripts. And I was like, really? I said, are we talking indie movies? And he goes, no, he says they're in the 15 to 30 million range. And I was like, wow. So 8 out of 9. So you've only written 1 script in your life that hasn't been made into a movie? And he goes, that's correct. So I was like, all right, are you willing to tell us how to do that? And he did. So he sat down. And by the way, this was his first advice. Create the pitch first. That was his advice. And I was like, wow, okay, so you create the pitch first, then what do you do? And he said, then what I do is if I love the pitch and I think for sure I can sell this, which 8 out of 9, he has the best batting average I've ever seen. He said, if I think I can sell this, then I write an outline. And I was like, okay, so you write your outline. And he said, the outline is all based on the pitch. So he says, my job is to make sure that when I write that outline, that it delivers on that pitch in a powerful way because the pitch can sell. And I was like, okay, does it ever happen that you write that outline and you choose not to write the script? And he goes, yeah, that's happened before. He goes, sometimes I get to the end of it and look at it and I go, no, this isn't what I want to write, or this isn't what my life's about. But he said, usually if the pitch was great, I can create an outline that's great. So he said he uses the pitch to guide all his decisions as he's writing, right? That focuses your creativity. And ultimately, it gets the script read by the industry. If you've already got a great pitch in advance, then you've got a really good chance that you're going to get in a door. So here's basically what your pitch should be. It should be first, genre, title, high concept. Just get right to the point. And this, by the way, if you're doing phone pitches, this is usually the way I do phone pitches. When Cheryl and I were producing, we got 35 scripts into major production companies and studios. We did it all with phone pitches, and 95% of those phone pitches were just these 3 things. I would say, I have a thriller titled blah, 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 and it's about, and then I would just say the high concept. 1 sentence that gets right to the major hook, and basically tells them all 3 of these say, you can sell this movie. You can sell it to an audience. So this is the first part. Then what's the big picture hook? And a few sentences of how it will play out in this story, right? So you're starting with a pitch. You've got the genre, title, high concept. Now you're saying, what's the big story hook, right? It's like if I was doing The Purge. Here, let me do The Purge. This is a horror one. I have a horror script. I'm just going to make it up here. I have a horror script titled The Purge, and it answers the question, what would happen if anyone in America could commit any crime for a 12-hour period and get away with it, including murder, right? There's my high concept. So genre, title, high concept. Then what's the big picture hook of the story? Well, you would look at the journey of the lead character. He comes home, finds out his house has been broken into, and his wife and kids are held hostage by a gang that is intent on killing them. The big picture hook on that is, how does he save them and survive? Right? Or it could be, how do you defeat this gang that came there to kill everybody in the house? Right? So it's a pretty strong hook. It doesn't have to be high concept. It just needs to be something that will motivate us to worry about this character throughout this journey. Then C, you need a short synopsis that focuses on what will sell the script. So you may have first, these things will sell: genre, title, high concept, big picture hook will sell, but there may be certain other things inside the story that if you write your synopsis around those parts that will sell it, that could become part of the transformational journey, which is what's next. If you write your synopsis around that, it's going to be 10 times as interesting. So, and then it's just a cool version of the transformational journey. And if they ask you the transformational journey, you should be able to say that in like 2 or 3 sentences, and it lights them up, right? So the question is, what is your transformational journey, and how do you present it in a cool way that they go, oh my God, that would make a great movie trailer? Right? Now, I don't mean describing what everything looks like and that kind of thing. Go right to the transformational journey. But 70% of the movie trailers you see in the movie theater are 100% the transformational journey. And all it does is leave out the ending. So it hooks us at the end. But we've seen this journey, and as audience members, we get to ask ourselves, do I want to come and watch that movie and really experience that journey in depth? And that's often what causes us to say yes to that. So what we're talking about here is just the tip of the iceberg on how to do this, right? Your job is to start wherever you are, doesn't matter wherever it is, to create some kind of goal. Where are you trying to go? To figure out the steps that go in between. And if you like this plan, use this plan, and to create a plan where you're taking action every day to move towards that success, and where you're elevating your skills. Both of these are incredibly important. If you come up with a great idea for a script, but you never write it, well, then taking action is the job. And really the question is, what is it that will motivate you? What will get you to get into writing and to go out of your way to write this script? What will make it the funnest, most exciting journey for you? And by the way, what are the skills that at the moment you elevate those skills, takes your script to a whole new level? Because that's what this whole thing is about. Now, let me show you something just to give you an idea of, what you could do that will change your life as a writer. Everything we've talked about here really is just the tip of the iceberg. We have this program coming up called Writing Incredible Movies. And stay with me for about 5 minutes. I'm going to give you a bonus and actually do a demonstration that I think you'll find incredibly interesting. But let me just walk you through what this class is about so you can see the steps that you might take to become a truly professional writer. So let's start up here. It starts with Module 1. You craft a pitch that can sell. We do this before you write a word. You craft a pitch that can sell. And I'm actually going to show you something in a couple of minutes that can make this 10 times easier for you. But once you have a pitch that can sell, then you start making the big picture decisions. What are the big picture decisions that this story is going to be about that will honor that pitch, right? Because if you have a pitch that can sell, then your job is to create a script that is the best possible delivery on that pitch, that will cause audiences to come out of the theater and go, oh my God. So that starts with those big picture decisions. Who are your characters? What's the journey that they're going to go on? And then in number 3, in module 3, then you create characters specifically to attract actors. And ask yourself this: do you know what will attract actors? I had 7 years ago, I had a group of writers. We started talking about this. We were in a development team, and they said, "What is it exactly that attracts actors? Do you know?" And I stood back and went, "I have a pretty good idea, but let's go find out." So we interviewed 23 actors production companies to find out what causes them to say yes to a project for their actor. I talked with Pierce Brosnan's company, Sandra Bullock's company, George Clooney's company, Matthew McConaughey's company, 23 of them. And with each one, we discovered new things. So we have a complete model for how to attract actors and how to make sure your characters are something they're going to love. In module 4, then you turn all of this into an outline, and you make sure your outline's incredible. And I'm not talking, most people have a tendency to write an outline where they put a whole bunch of details in. We're not thinking that way. What we're thinking is, what's an outline that will make this movie absolutely astounding, that will deliver on this pitch, that will attract actors, right? All of the things that we're working towards. We're working towards you being able to sell a script. Our outline, by the way, has 5 levels of depth to it. This isn't, most people have outlines that have really 1 or 2 levels of depth. Ours have 5. So by the time you're done, you have this amazing outline. And then at that point, we go into the first draft. So you're writing your first draft based on an outline that, if a producer looked at that outline and read it, they would say, I'm going to buy this script. So your first draft, it's just about high-speed writing to honor that. Now, by the way, this high-speed writing, this is something that sells you as a writer in this industry. If you can write faster, if you can write under heavy deadlines, if you can do all that stuff, people in this industry are going to want to work with you. But either way, you want to learn it so that when you choose to write faster, you have that gear. Then module 6, we go into the second draft. And in module 6, our whole purpose is to find the problems and solve them, right? You are going in and you're asking, what are the problems that would stop somebody from saying yes to this script? And then I'm going to give you a problem solution grid. It has the problem listed, it has all the main problems that show up in draft 2 listed, and then it has a set of solutions. So if you have a major problem, like let's say your character disappears for a certain amount, or there's a structural problem, or the turning points aren't strong or something like that. Whatever problem you have, we've got a solution for. And it's right there, it's instant. By the time you're done with draft 2, you have a problem-free script. This might not sound like much to you, but I'm going to tell you, talking with script consultants, they say that the majority of the scripts they see have problems beneath the surface. Those are the problems we solve in draft 2. In draft 3, then your job is to double the quality of the best stuff that you have. And we will do this on multiple levels. We'll do it on the character level, we'll do it on the scene level, we'll do it on the structure level, right? We're talking stuff underneath the surface still. This isn't about writing pretty words or those kinds of things. It's about you making sure that your script is amazing. You're going to double the quality of it in your third draft. In your fourth draft, then we go to amazing dialogue. If an actor read these lines of dialogue, would they sign on to this project? And that's your objective. So I'll give you a whole bunch of different ways to make your dialogue amazing, to build subtext in, to build intrigue in, to have it cause everybody who's watching anticipate certain things in the future. There are amazing things we can do with dialogue once we have a problem-free script and you've already done what it takes to double the quality. Then in module 9, now this is your fifth draft. And this one is the one where we go to perfect wordsmithing. Up until that point, we don't focus on wordsmithing at all. And there's a reason why. When you wordsmith something, you lock it in your mind. Your creative mind says it's done. It has the perfect words. So if you're wordsmithing back on your first draft, big mistake. That stops you from being creative throughout all of these. So we're doing this process in a way that fits what A-list screenwriters do. So by the time you're done, you'll have learned all of this. In module 10, then, we'll then go to marketing. And this is about what it takes to get you in the door. It's about having you understand what managers, agents, and producers need. And you will create the 4 great pitches that you need to get in. Most people create one pitch, and then when they get in the door or when they interact with the producer and they ask them for something else, the person is stumped. At one point, I was taking pitches. We had 40 people in line to give us pitches. So I told every writer, I said, listen, I'm dealing with the studios. What I need is to know your high concept first. Out of 40 writers who were there, only 2 could tell me their high concept. 2 out of 40. They didn't know how to do the other pitches. They only knew how to give one pitch. What this does is it gives you the freedom. These are the 4 pitches you will use with producers. We used them over and over and over. It gives you the freedom if you walk in or if you get on Zoom or whatever, and they only have a minute, you can go from your 4-minute pitch down to your 30-second pitch. If they're asking for something specific, you already have it. So this is about having all the solutions and all the answers. Now, this program, and I'm gonna show you the bonus in just a second, where I'll take you through a new way to be able to create your projects that you'll absolutely love. This program, normal price on it is $12.99. It starts next week, 1 week from tomorrow. So it's starting on September 23rd. And here's the special I can give you. Let's see if I have it here. Just a moment. Yeah, okay. So right now I can give you a special. This is something we don't normally do at this point. The special I can give you is half price right this moment. And that gets you in. We are bringing some new things in, and I just want to have some writers that we can work with during the program. So the class starts again September 23rd, 1 week from now. You get in, this is for the first 10, by the way. First 10 get in for half price. That's $649. So you'll get in for $649. Just go over here to where it says one-time payment. Write that link down, bit.ly, bit.ly /SU-WIM. This is Screenwriting U - Writing Incredible Movies. So again, just write it down, bit.ly, bit.ly /SU-WIM. If you need a payment plan, here's the link for the payment plan. I think it's $125 a month for 6 months. But that will get you in an easy way, and you'll be able to go through this class and master all of these skills. Now, let me do a demonstration here. I want to show you something amazing. And let's see. Yeah, here's what I'm about to show you. This is our bonus. Creating projects in 8 minutes. I'm going to show you this on AI right now. This is the bonus that you get. What it means is this. Once you sign up, you will instantly get all the prompts. We'll send them to you either tonight or tomorrow. We'll send you all the prompts to be able to create a brand new project. Our objective is this, that you come in and you generate 5 to 10 projects in the next week. You can do 1 a day and have 7 by the time you get to this class. So you generate 5 to 10 projects, and then you select the best. The reason this matters is if you're coming in with the best of 10, that usually is a better project than you would have created if you just went with something that popped into your head. So let me show you how this works. I think you'll absolutely love it. Just a moment here. There we are. Okay, so this is ChatGPT. I'm sure you're familiar with it. It's the actual major AI that's out there. There's also Bard and a bunch of others. But what we're about to do is I'm going to take an idea and we're going to turn it into a project. So let's just go with it here. Just a moment. There we go. And it's having a little problem today. But take a look at what this is. It's actually pretty amazing. I have asked it to give us some specific stuff. I took an idea. Here was my idea. The genre was sci-fi. The subject's about a female scientist who is on a space station that explodes, and she ends up going through that day over and over until she finds out that it was her husband to be that destroyed the ship, right? So it's just an idea that popped into my head at some point. I'm starting with that. Now, the way I'm asking it to do this is to give us not only a concept, a version of the concept, but a main conflict, a surprising twist, a deeper layer, an intriguing world, and who it thinks is the primary audience. But it's not going to just do that once. I'm asking it to actually do it 5 times with 5 different versions of this. So this is the first thing that'll happen. You'll come in with one idea. It will then give you 5 different versions that gives you all this stuff that needs to be there for this project to work. And your job will be just to go through and pick the version you like the best, right? So you're already starting with 5 different potential projects and picking the best of those 5. Now, let's just take it a little further here so you can see this. So just a second. So now I'm going to ask it after we have these, and I think I just chose number 3. Let's just see here. Yeah, I did. So I chose the 3rd one. I'm asking it to create characters. So here's our lead character, Dr. Alra Voss. And by the way, I'm doing this brand new right in front of you, so you can see how it works. It tells us her role. She's the protagonist and the lead scientist. Tells us her core traits, right? So here's a list of possible core traits, her motivation, her wound. Now, just in case you're looking and going, but what if I don't like that one? That's totally okay. You can just go back through and either re-brainstorm, or you can stand back and say, okay, I like this, but I don't like that she's just that. I need some kind of negative there, or whatever, right? So we've got this character, these are our top 4 characters in this particular project that just came up in what, 30 seconds. Now let's have it create the next part. And again, let's see what we got here. So yeah, here we go. So it's creating a structure for us right now. And you'll see how it does it. We've got the opening. This is a 3-act structure. The opening, inciting incident, the act 1 turning point, then the midpoint in the middle of act 2, the act 2 turning point, right? An escalation of stakes, a moral dilemma. Excellent. And then it takes us into the 3rd act. Here's our climax. And finally, it'll go to the resolution. Now, again, what I want you to see is this. This whole thing, really, if I was just doing it as fast as I could, I think what we just did was to create it in less than 5 minutes. But if I just do it as fast as I could do it faster than that. But what you're going to do is create 5 to 10 of these projects that already they started with an idea that you have, and each one I'd use a different idea. And then it took you through and created the characters. First it created what the project is about and gave you some depth on it. Then it created the characters. Then it created a structure for you, right? Once you have that on 5 projects or more, then what you do is you come back to, or you come into the class, you're bringing in the best, you're bringing in the best of those new projects. You've got 5 to 10 projects that all came from one of your idea that you have worked with. And what I'll do is I'll give you a video on how, as you go through these, to make choices that change it to make it yours, and to make choices that elevate the project. So every step you'll be asking it to make some changes that make it even better and to make it yours before it goes to the next step. So once you're done with that, you take your 5 to 10 projects. The day that the program starts, you pick which is the best, which one do you like the best, which do you think can sell, and you bring that into the program. Now, what that will do for you ultimately is you have picked the best out of 10 projects, which means you're coming in with something that's better than anything you would have ever written. And now you're going to take it through this program and you're going to make it an incredible script. That gives you a much better chance of winning contests. It gives you a much better chance of getting an agent or manager, and it gives you a much better chance of working with producers. That's our goal. That's our purpose. That's what this is about. I can't guarantee that anybody will win contest or get a manager or that kind of thing, but we've had over 600 writers make their first deal because of our classes. We have had over 150 writers get a manager or an agent because of our classes. All you got to do is pick whichever plan you'd like. If you want to go with the 649 special, just write this link down and put it in your browser where you normally put a web address, click return, come join us. The first 10 get this price. After that, it's going to go up about $150, and then it'll continue to go up until it gets to the first day of the class. So if you already know that you want to become a great writer and that you want to master this stuff so you have a chance, come join us. If you need the payment plan, again, it's $125 a month for 6 months. Just write this link down, bit.ly, bit.ly/WIM-payments. No caps, no spaces. WIM, again, is Writing Incredible Movies -payments. Pick whichever works best for you. You've got 1 week. You're going to brainstorm a new project every day. Just come up with almost any idea and put it in there and work with it and see what comes to you. You may be blown away by the project that you bring into this program. So just keep asking yourself this: when are you going to give your writing a real chance? And what would happen if you took this program and learned these strategies that the pros are doing that most writers aren't? What would happen for you if you took this program and were able to make your writing a success? With that, I want to say thank you guys for joining us. I promise you are going to love everything you learn in this program. And by the way, you'll be learning every single day. Every lesson that you get, there's 100 lessons. Every lesson, you will learn something new that will make you a better writer. So with that, this is Hal Krosman with Screenwriting U, wishing you the absolute best. Have a great time. We'll see you guys in the class. Bye-bye, everyone.